When my mind is fucking cloudy, cloudy. Need to focus on somebody. Yeah, Master P, yeah, she bout it. She understand the assignment.
Hey, I've been on reckless abandon, ain't got shit to lose. I've been lost inside a dream, I probably hit the snooze. I didn't ease that label, still I gotta keep it cool. Leaving tests on red, make sure my pockets green and blue. Then I put green on their heads, I call them Beetlejuice. Seen them on the evening news, kill them when I needed room. You think she a tight, she begging me to beat it loose. She's it red like Pikachu, every time I Pikachu. Shoot her up, guess I'm sliding. Left a nigga home, well phone, it's no silent. Saw these mess my fly in the clouds, we residing. Then I took her home, made her sing like a siren. She came straight out in erotic novel. She riding, she swallow you out of a bottle. She just wanna see me whining and grovel. She fly like a model, she bow, I say bravo, baby.
When my mind is fucking cloudy, cloudy. Need to focus on somebody. Yeah. Master P, yeah, she bout it. She understand the assignment. Ay, I told her we don't gotta label it anything, but I think you know. If the sky above you was cloudy, then I would paint it blue. I know her ex-man tripping out like he ate the shrooms. I gave that man a memorial like from May to June. I get way too petty when I'm off the shit, so I hope these motherfuckers don't cross me again. The only L I see is in my love for revenge. Motherfucker, student loan debt and paying rent. I was on Santee Alley when the streaming check came in. Had to buy my baby Sapphire birthstone gems in the Prius bumping Thames. I told her when I pop I'm really buying her a Benz. I know love don't cost a thing, but I want to spoil you rotten like I left out some old food. R.I.P. the OB, need a headstone. Blocking everybody else out like noise canceling headphones. When my mind is fucking cloudy, cloudy. Need to focus on somebody. Yeah, Master P, yeah, she bout it. She understand the assignment. Yeah.
Go. Hey, I'm Tim Donaghy, and you're listening to the Advantage Podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Advantage. I'm your host, Michael Fiddle. Today is Monday, August 19th, and on today's podcast, I am joined by professional poker player Drew Johnson to break down the Tuesday, August 20th WNBA games. We have 3 games already priced. The lines have been out for about 12, 14 hours. We are going to break down the sharp sides, give out some of our best bets. This is a pretty sharp slate, and we are keying in on a certain few games. So we're going to dive deeper into those games that we have best bets on. Before we officially get started, let me remind everyone to please rate, review, subscribe to the podcast on whatever channel you are listening. And I'm also starting to do more live streams on YouTube and Twitter. So if you are watching, please subscribe to the Advantage Sports Betting YouTube channel. You will start to see a lot of great video content come there, including my guest professional poker player, Drew Johnson, going to start doing some poker streams coming up. So you want to play a little Texas Hold'em with a pro, you could do that on The Advantage. Should be very exciting. Of course, this podcast is also sponsored by Recovery for Athletes, the #1 online retailer for all your home recovery equipment needs, from home saunas to home cold plunges, to weights, to protein powder. Check out recoveryforathletes.com and use code THEADVANTAGE for a discount off your order. All right, let's bring in this guy that I speak so highly of. Drew, welcome back to the show. How are you doing? And I understand we were just in a final table all of 3 minutes ago, and it was potentially going to be kind of half podcasting, half playing in a poker tournament final table. I'm sorry to hear that you got 7th place, bud.
We didn't finish as well as I'd hoped. Ran into some tough spots. It was a bounty tournament, so you're going to call a little wider in certain spots when people have big bounties. And I did so and lost a couple of hands that way, and then got taken out when I had pocket 8s and somebody hunted my bounty.
Do you get a return for coming in 7th in a large tournament?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we still did well. We're still in a good mood, and we're ready to take some of that growth in our bankroll and turn it over to the WNBA. All right, we are going over Tuesday, August 20th slate because there are no games tonight. I'm going to bring up the odds at FanDuel. We will talk about where the best odds are available. I just like the user interface on FanDuel to best highlight and show you guys things and form a bet slip and track this as we go along. Drew, I'm going to let you start with this. What is your best bet on the card and why?
So the game I think we both have been focused on has been the Connecticut LA game, and I think that line is way too low. It should probably be more like 156 and a half for the over under. It's currently at 153 in places, still 154. I see you got on FanDuel there. And then I think Connecticut is a much better team than LA. LA is ravaged by injuries currently. We'll see how many of their players even make this trip. They might just rest some people. They're going into the tank, and they haven't performed well even against the spread recently. They did cover against, who did they play? Was it the Aces, the last game they played? Just barely. But I just, with the injury trouble they've had and the way Connecticut's been playing recently, I think they're going to have a lot of problems. And I expect Connecticut to just trounce them at home.
It was the Aces that they played. They did just barely cover that spread. It was a 16.5 spread, Drew. The game ended 97-81, right on that 16.
There
So
it
that
is.
was a
Yep.
very sharp number that they've been laying on this Sparks team. And what I've been noticing is that they've been playing very fast, right? So I've been noticing the Sparks play very fast basketball. And then you juxtapose that with the Connecticut Sun, who are a pretty slow half-court team. But then we need to make an adjustment for the Connecticut Sun, which was the addition of Marina Mabrey right before the break. We don't have a sample size of data of Mabrey with this team. They traded for her from the Chicago Sky. Chicago Sky go into absolute tank mode. Look how they've been playing recently against the Phoenix Mercury, getting smacked by 20 in multiple games.
Yeah.
And then so Mabrey's one of, like, she's like a starting small forward, good 3-point floor spacing, just smart presence on the court. And so the Sun add that to try and bring in more spacing and more shooting around Alyssa Thomas and DeWanna Bonner. And then what that's caused in the totals market is that the opening lines have not been coming out high enough for this Connecticut Sun team. As soon as they've had Mabrey back in the lineup, these totals are coming based on what the metrics and the models project them at. But then there's a sharp sentiment that this is going to increase the offensive performance of the Sun, and we should back that. We also see the correlation between Suns taking more steam in the spread with an over total. The only way you can play into a minus 12.5, minus 13 line is if it's a pretty high total or if it's a climbing total, right? Because we don't want to ask to cover 14 points in a really low scoring game. So, Drew, even though this total has been raising, it's still pretty low. It's still 7 points lower than any other game on this slate. Sun are still generally a low scoring half court team. Do you still play a minus 13? Do you play a money line? Do you just choose one of these positions because they're related to each other? How do you correlate your feelings between seeing a 13 and a 154 that you like?
Well, first of all, that 13, I think, is still got room to climb. I expect that to be 14 by tip. And you can play back a little there, and I am going to, as I've put a unit and a half on the...
As you're saying that, Drew, look, the VIG just changed to minus 114 on the 13 side. Like, the beauty of putting the live odds screen up there, at least for one book, this is not a whole odds board. That would be way too confusing for a viewing audience to try and process the odds board and how it's moving and other things that'll be flashing. So I chose one screen, but you can see Connecticut Sun just move from, I think it was minus 112 to minus 114. So there is still sentiment that it's going in that direction. So maybe there is still more room to go, or maybe you just find the best money line available, but at 1,200, I mean, that's a steep
it's a
price.
steep asking price.
Or for me, it's like I grabbed 153.5 on the total. The over also just changed in front of our eyes. It was minus 106, and I was literally about to point out that there's a 153.5 at ESPN Bet right now, but it's minus 115 to the over. And I was gonna say, if you're seeing minus 106 versus minus 115 and 9 cents of VIG differential between half a point in a WNBA line, you play the minus 106. Here, it's starting to get closer value. Like they're probably pretty equal. You could choose to take the 53.5, so you get the winning number on your side. They're probably, the 54 is probably like still half a cent even better value in paying the less VIG. I would take less fake. Right. I agree. My play here is to just put the position towards the over, and I still think it's playable. And I do agree this could close at 56.
Yeah. I just think that the Sun are a lot more dangerous in transition right now. And with the way the Sparks are going to, like, I just expect this team to be gassed. So I expect a lot of rebounds, a lot of runouts. This is the other angle I have in this game is I picked up Mabry over 2.5 threes at plus 135 at Bet365. I don't know if they have it on. So let's see what 3 plus. What do they have it there? 126
plus 130 at FanDuel.
Yeah, so plus 135 at Bet365 last I saw, which would have been about 5-10 minutes ago as we're recording this. I just like she's going to retreat to the 3-point line. She's hit that over in 4 of the last 5 games. And the only reason she missed it in the last game is because she went 2 for 10. Like she's here to shoot. She's been given the green light. There are going to be 3-pointers shot. So look for that over at plus odds right now. I can't believe that considering what we're seeing already.
I like that angle a lot. I mean, we started this podcast off with saying they traded for a floor spacer. You integrate a new piece and you really just ask her, say, hey, you don't know all the sets yet, but we're going to put you in that corner pocket. We're going to put you out on the wing as the driving kick. You know how to just be an outlet pass based on standard basketball geometry. When the guard starts to attack, you start to floor space that way. So that's what Mabry's being asked to do. 10 3-point attempts in her last game, and you could play her over at plus money. I do agree with that, and I'll sprinkle it myself. One place we don't agree, Drew, is it just moved to plus 116. That blows. All right, so I'm gonna have to go try and find. Where did you say the
365? Let me check.
Okay, yeah, check on that for me right now. Go back to the big board, and I'll say that the game that we've disagreed so far, isn't that crazy? That as we're doing a live show and as we're putting the odds screen up, we're 3 for 3.
We are 3 for 3 on CLV right now. Let's go.
Yeah, but we haven't obtained any of it because
no, it's not
because I intentionally log out of my FanDuel account so people can see how much money is in there and then start concerning themselves with things they don't need to be concerned with. Mm-hmm. Okay. The Seattle Storm take on the Washington Mystics, Drew, and I said this was the one that we disagreed. I played the under at 162.5. You played the over at 161.5. We now see this at 161.5, but minus 112 to the over. So we both have a few cents of CLV. So are we willing to say we're 4 for 4 and that we're actually not really on different sides and that we actually both have good bets here?
No, I actually just think that, like, given the fact that we're both on opposite sides, that this line's just sharp, and I actually cashed out this bet, even though I had like a few cents of CLV on it. I think that line looks like it's going to drop a bit. I think you're on the right side of it, so I just cashed my bet straight out. No loss at all there, which is nice. We'll see where it moves. Like if it gets under 160 somehow, I probably still like the over. And I would imagine you would play back at that number, like 159.5 if it gets down that low.
In a game like this, where the only reason why I took the 162.5 was because I knew the entire rest of the board was at 161.5. This was a simple top-down one number's off the market right now. Let me take it. And then, so I have a 162.5. Caesars is still at 162. If this does move down, Drew, absolutely. Would I play this
Yeah.
back at 159.5? Absolutely. If it settles in at this 161, then what I do is I wait and I probably watch the game and I see, do I play any of it back at a quarter break, at a halftime break, or do I just let it ride? We see how that goes and make those adjustments mid-game. But pre-game, if you get 3 points of CLV on a line that you took simply because you thought you were going to get 3 cents of CLV, then you've set yourself up to create a positive expected value opportunity from playing into that line movement. The other, is there anything else that you want to talk about on this game? Because I do want to quickly hit on Wings Liberty.
So the only thing I wanted to talk to you about is seeing a few overs right now, right? Is that a trend that's been going? I don't have numbers to back this up at the moment. I feel like pace has increased across the league as a whole. Is it because of the break and because people are just fresher?
I don't have data to respond with something that people should take home and write in pen. But I've certainly noticed Sparks playing faster. I've noticed Sun being the slowest team having their totals rise. We've seen Lynx game, second best defense in the league. Their totals are rising. We're seeing the Indiana Fevers opening lines can't be priced enough. Even the Phoenix Mercury, those are the only lines that have been coming down. But that's, again, a very kind of aging veteran team going into the back half of the season. So, yeah, sentiment agree without much data. Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that I just as I'm watching these games through the season that I've noticed is at the beginning of this season, I was seeing a lot more of the back to the basket style play. And now it's a lot more guard oriented drive and kick. We've seen that with guards in Chicago, in Dallas, right? Like there's even in Indiana, like Aaliyah Boston at the beginning of the season was the best player on Indiana, and now it's very clearly Caitlin Clark.
And you see all of Boston's opportunities come on a speed-made play by Clark, which sets up Boston for if she has her back to the basket, it's half a second before that initiation starts.
Mm-hmm. Are we starting to see the WNBA go through their Steph Curry era, where Caitlin Clark has come in, raised the pace of her team so much that team's starting to look really good. Something's definitely going on in Indiana right now. We were talking
something's in the water.
Yeah,
something's in the water.
That game, the way they were shooting in the
Vitamin
fourth quarter,
22, they call it.
Man,
should we brand that? Impressed. Vitamin 22 is in the water in Indiana.
Sure, if you want.
All right. I do agree, and I actually been thinking about this guard sentiment. Taurasi's the last guard to win an MVP in the WNBA, and I do see this exact thing coming. And Drew, let's set a reminder for this offseason to have a discussion of, do we take Ionescu, Caitlin Clark, and a few guards in long shot MVPs instead of the Asia Wilsons and those kind of players, because it does seem like the speed of the game is really changing, and that could be a big storyline next season.
I would love to see a Caitlin Clark or the MVP odds for next season come out before the end of this season.
Victor Wembanyama coming out defensive player of the year at minus 275 at BetMGM before this season started, which is fucking crazy. Speaking of which, and I think I could probably pull it up right here, but the Caitlin Clark is now the second odds-on candidate, not favorite because it's 80-1, to be the MVP of the W. It's just funny, without getting into that, Drew, it's just funny that we're a week and a half removed from the Olympics and maybe 6 weeks removed from the whole conversation of she's not good enough to make the team. And now she's number 2 in the WNBA in MVP odds. That is all I will say to that. I don't even want a response. Let's talk about this Wings Liberty game. And for me, it was brewing as an under spot because I want to fade the Wings. And I feel like the Liberty are willing to play slow when they start beating the brakes off their opponents. So seeing this now at 174, I think I want to go grab this 174.5 right now at DraftKings.
Yeah, I'm looking at 174.5 on Bet365 right now, and I'm considering doing the same thing.
I'm doing it.
The Dallas Wings just the only thing that freaks me out is I went back through the game scores the last few games for both the Wings and the Liberty, and the Wings games have all gone high, like in the 180s consistently. Maybe I have no, because the Liberty have had the lower scoring games. Now, one of the things is the Liberty are clearly the better team. They're on a roll. They've lost 2 games in 30 or whatever, right? Like it's
Sabrina is so good, and then
yeah.
she's not even the best player on our team because Bree Stew's maybe the best player in the W. And then even people like John Quell and Thornton, like the Liberty, you have Vandersloot, like they're so the Liberty are so fucking good. They took a sharp
They're
move in
deep.
the odds to do you see this championship movement too, Drew? These two were each plus 155 a day and a half ago. Liberty
Yeah.
beat the brakes off the Aces, and now it goes plus 120, plus 190. A lot of that also has to do with the way the bracket might break if the Aces are truly in that 4 or 5 slot and not going to climb out of it like we've expected them to.
Well, it doesn't seem like they're going to. They're having trouble dispatching. Like they can't beat the spread against this struggling Sparks team, who is, as we've been saying, about to get hammered tonight or tomorrow night by the Sun, probably. Yeah, I think the Liberty will probably dictate the pace at home, but I also think that the Wings are so bad defensively and can try to stay in this game through their offense. So I'm a little worried about this total as a whole. I think it's a pretty sharp line. It does look like it's trending under. I don't think it's a bad bet, obviously, is you've already got some value based on getting the half point, right?
Yeah.
But this game as a whole just feels like a trap game to me. Like the Liberty are just doing so well. One of the things they've had trouble with is covering spreads against bad teams on after games where, that had more stakes with them, right?
Right.
So this is just a stay away from me, and it's also probably going to be a fairly unwatchable game, one way or another. It's either going to be, a blowout, or the Wings could try and keep it close and maybe just gum up the lane a bit and try and slow down the pace a bit and win ugly.
Yeah, it's definitely a Wings plus 14 sharp side, right? Like it opened 14 and a half. Sharp books are starting to bring this down to 14. You do have an under spot brewing. We're correlating, the 154 over with the Sparks Sun with the minus on the long favorite. You have to correlate also a long underdog in saying the Dallas Wings, it's going to be hard for the Liberty to win by 15 or more in a game that might be a trap spot, as you're saying, in a situation that they've struggled with, and the totals coming down. It does add up for, you have to question if you want to tack on some Wings exposure on that 14 and a half is available. BetMGM and ESPN Bet at minus 115. I think I'll just take I already did take the Liberty under 174 and a half. So if you're choosing between the plus 14 and a half at minus 115 juice or the under 174 and a half at minus 110 juice, it's either like you're playing both of them small or you take less vig is how you generally make the deciding factor between those two calls, or which one has more room to go, which one does the market indicate can gain more CLV. And then we also need to add in, this is going to get very confusing, that not all CLV is worth the same. So moving from 174 and a half to 174 is not worth the same as moving from 13 or 12 and a half to 13. So how much CLV, or really how much is that CLV worth that you are going to obtain? There are levels to this shit, fellas. Drew, let me ask you before we get out of here. There are Mercury Dream. There are Lynx Aces. Games for, there you go. You see it again. Here comes the red on Wings right there that just popped up. Means that there's action coming in on the Wings. And it just moved to 13
and a half. Yeah.
In front of our fucking eyes. That's 11 for 11 now. maybe that has room to go too. Maybe now you say you go grab a 14.5 at minus 115. This is starting to apply some of these market reading angles as you're watching numbers move in real time, right? Understand the direction, know where the best line is, see if you could determine how far it might move, and then make a decision, is that value worth obtaining in a play? Drew, what I was going to ask you was Mercury and Dream, Lynx and Aces are already priced for Wednesday's slate. Is there anything that you have bet, or is there anything that you're strongly thinking, I hate the term lean, because I thought about betting it, but ultimately didn't. Is there anything that you do think you are going to bet or have bet already?
So I grabbed the Lynx at plus 4.5. They're now plus 3.5. I think the Aces everybody just keeps waiting for them, and they keep not showing up. So I'm just going to keep betting like they are who they're showing us they are at this point.
They are who they said they're. Okay, let me build off of that really quick, because this is something that I've been talking to some WNBA people behind the scenes about. If we know that the WNBA playoffs are a 1-8 seeding of these 12 teams, and we know that the Aces are really in that 4-5 spot right now in the standings, right? Liberty, clear 1, Connecticut 2, Lynx 3. Right now, it's the Seattle Storm, I think, 4, and the Aces 5. Those two have been bouncing back and forth. But if the Aces do end up in this 4-5 slot, Drew, then they are going against the Storm in round 1, which is a tough round 1.
Yes.
Then you're going against the Liberty in round 2, which that's been the WNBA finals as a rematch before the finals. So that means the team like the Lynx and the Sun would completely avoid Liberty, Aces, and Storm on their side of the bracket, and things would break beautifully if these seedings hold. We still have over 10 games left, so I don't want to say this is what's going to be, but if these things hold, it would be beautiful to be in front of a Minnesota Lynx long shot ticket or a Connecticut Sun long shot ticket. If you were on the other side of that thing, and then simply, if your team makes the finals, whoever you get of Liberty, Aces, long shot Storm, you could then hedge the other way with an 8 or 9-1 type of ticket. Does that interest you? Does Lynx or Sun interest you more? Is any of that worth getting ahead of now? Just give me some opinions on what I talked through.
So I agree. Like I would absolutely, like, we were talking about picking up the Minnesota Lynx ticket back after they won the
one I want. That would be the one I want. Top 5 in defense, top 5 in 3-point shooting. That is, I don't throw away the WNBA, throw away the NBA, throw away college. That is a basketball formula for a playoff contending team. You hit your shots, you play defense.
So, game we should circle, 17th of September, second last game of the season, Connecticut versus Lynx. Lynx in at the Sun. That could be a potential, I want to say conference finals, but because it's a, straight seeding, I don't know what to say. Semifinals of the league preview. And I would really be interested to see because of what we talked about earlier with the Sun, right? Like if they're spacing the floor really well and shooting really well, that's going to be an interesting matchup with them because the Lynx typically play a little slower and a little more back to the basket with Collier.
This Lynx Aces game becomes absolutely monumental too, because if the Lynx can take not only one more game in the actual seeding race right now, but also another game directly in a tiebreak situation, if the records end up the same, this becomes huge. So understanding the importance for both of these teams, Lynx Aces becomes a must watch. Drew's on Lynx plus 4.5. Let me quickly see if that exists anywhere. No, good for you, Drew. Well fucking done. But yeah, that's probably the right side to be on for that game. All right, that will wrap up our WNBA breakdown for Tuesday, August 20th. Thank you to my 7th place finisher, Drew Johnson. Appreciate you stepping away from the final
We'll get a
table.
W later.
Exactly.
I need a W soon.
just to review our sides, over 154 is certainly a play for Drew and I on Sparks Sun. I had it at 153.5. We both do feel like you could still play the over 154. Drew likes the Sun minus 13 still and thinks it has room to go. I agree that's the side you want. We had mixed feelings on Storm Mystics. I am on the under at 162.5, but with the whole market at 161.5, you probably want to stay away. Dallas Wings are the sharp side, which is correlated with the under 174.5 for the Wings at the Liberty. We grabbed props like Mabry's over 3-pointers, 2.5 threes, plus 135 at bet 365. I'm going to need to wrap this up and go run and bet that myself. And Drew, as we wrap up, your +4 on the links moves to minus 112. So for the 117th time on this show, when we bring up the live odds board, we're highlighting the side. Do we think FanDuel is watching the show right now? It's certainly possible. Thank you to my guest, Drew Johnson. Thank you for everyone for tuning in. Please rate, review, subscribe on whatever podcast platform you are listening to. Please go subscribe to my YouTube channel because we plan to do more things like this. We plan to do more video content. And how much better is it with the odds board and seeing all these things and being able to highlight these things and understand it and being able to go reference it in real time? It is so much easier to follow than just listening in an audio version, probably distracted by other things. I've had people tell me, Drew, that they like write down all the notes because I haven't always put up the video version. So to stay in line with the podcast, they literally listen with a notepad. You're that person or those 2 people who have ever said that to me. Thank you. I love you. But now watch it on the video version. All right, Drew, thank you again. And as always, peace out.